Hey guys, welcome to our program. This is Tim Rosanelli here with my half-mast-eyed producer, Justin.
Hey, yo.
So Justin's, we're finally back to recording because Justin was away for a week because he had his baby. I wish we had like sound effects. We could be like, hey, and everything. So
Insert clap here.
So yeah, I don't think you've probably slept for 2 weeks now, huh?
Sleep does elude me in my new life as a father, but we're getting through it.
Yeah. Oh, he had a lovely baby boy. What was the weight again?
It was 8.1. Or no, 8 pounds, 1.9 ounces.
Oh man, I whenever somebody says something, I always go 8 pounds, 2 ounces. Yeah. I just round up.
All the nurses he's like almost 8.2. I was like, all right, that sounds good enough.
If the baby had drank another ounce of water or half an ounce of water, it would have been, 8.2.
See, my wife's now listening to the podcast, so I gotta make sure I say it correctly, or she's gonna be like, "It's not that. He wasn't actually 8.2."
Got to get exactly right.
No, she just likes proving it. I was like, "Did you actually listen to it?" And she's like, "Well, you said this wrong, and this wrong."
Oh, okay. So now
she's just proven that she listened to the whole thing, not just a little bit of it.
So you're saying that I should make sure my wife doesn't listen to my podcast because she'll be correcting every grammatical error I make.
I don't know if Esther's a grammar. What are they called? Brain, words, sleep.
Yeah.
Haven't been connecting.
All right. Well, let's get into it. First, we wanted to just start out. I wanted to give a funny story of something that happened to us at our dojo. We are redesigning our dojo, and we're going to have our studio over there. And I found a really good desk, which Justin's really happy about because currently I have a desk and he doesn't at the dojo. So he's going to finally have his own desk. How's that feel?
It feels like I'm waiting for Christmas Day and I'm a little kid.
Yeah, because
it's like, Daddy, is it Christmas yet?
So we're just waiting for everything to get in position. But it was kind of a funny story. We found this perfect desk at an antique shop, my wife and I. And my wife was still walking around. It was like the first thing we saw there. And we're like, that's it. That is the desk. But we felt obligated to like walk around the rest of the antique shop just to make sure we didn't find something even better. And as my wife was walking around, I kind of did a quick scan of everything and decided that is it. So I went down to the guys at the front desk and said, hey, I want to buy this desk. And I said, my wife's still...
You mean table?
Or table, yeah, okay. We'll get into that later. Yeah, the table. And my wife was still walking around, and I said to them, hey, I want to buy this table. Can you clear it off and so we can put it in a thing? And all of a sudden, the guys were like, they really did not want me to take this table home. I mean, they were like, well, that table's really heavy. And do you got somebody to help you? I was like, yeah, my wife's going to be here. And oh, no, you're not going to be able to lift that. And they made me check it out. Like, they're like, I'm like, oh, no, we'll be fine. And then they're like, well, I don't think, do you have a pickup truck? And I'm like, well, we have like an SUV. Oh, I don't think it's going to fit in the SUV. And I'm like, really? So I got a tape measure out. They gave me a tape measure and I measured it was going to fit. And I went over to the desk and I like lifted it up and it really wasn't that heavy. And I was like, man, these guys really don't want me to take this home with me. I mean, it was like they were sending me home.
They got emotional attachments to it.
So we ended up not taking this table home with us because my wife didn't want to put it in our new car. And a couple days later, I guess it was like 2 days later, I went with you to pick it up. And these guys had told me to bring somebody strong with me, so you were my strong man.
And not to show up exactly when they
when
they open, because they'll have to turn the lights on.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that part of the story. I was like, oh, when are you open? They're like, oh, we're open on Tuesday from 10 to 5, but don't come at 10 o'clock, because we'll just be opening. So could you come like 10:15. And oh, by the way, don't come right at 5. Can you come like earlier than 5? And I'm like, well, what are these guys' hours anyway? I mean, they're trying to tell me, when to come and when I'm not allowed to be there. I don't know. It just seemed funny. You'd think they would have came a little bit before so that they could. I guess they wanted to be right out there, right out of that place at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, they got something to do.
Yeah. So we went back over there, and you were there with me, and the same guy was there, and he was pretty much totally rude to me. He was already working on some guy. I was really friendly, too. I was like, hey, I'm here to pick up that desk.
Okay.
And then he said, what? No, he said, oh, do you mean the table?
It's like, oh, yeah, the table. Okay.
He really liked you, though.
And then he went back to the customer he was helping out.
Yeah. And he really liked you, though. He's like, oh, I see you brought your strong guy with you.
Well, he didn't talk to us yet.
Yeah.
Because he was talking to the guy for 2 minutes. And he's like, it's in the other room. You just go pick it up.
Yeah, you can go get it.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
So we went and got the table. I mean, it wasn't that heavy. I mean, did you think it was heavy?
We both could have picked it up with one arm.
Yeah.
It just wasn't stable that way. That's all. Yeah. It was really light. And newsflash, we didn't put it in a pickup truck. We put it in your wife's hatchback.
Yeah, exactly.
With the trunk closed. We didn't even have to bungee cord it closed.
No.
The whole thing closed.
Yeah. And, I mean, it was just kind of a funny situation. And the thing I find is interesting about it is some people just in their mind, like these guys weren't much older than me. I think they were kind of like maybe a couple years older than me, but they were acting like they were too old. Or I was like thinking to myself, well, how hard could this desk be for me and my wife to pick up? I mean, there's 2 more guys. We could have each took one corner, and that would have been plenty of people to pick that table up.
Well, the guy was watching us walk out, and that's when he said oh, I see you brought some big muscle with you today, or something like that. And he said it twice, because we didn't acknowledge it the first time. So, and we walk out, and there's the guy that was buying something before us was then done and was walking towards the door, and he had a cane in one hand and a ladder in the other. He was using the cane like it was his.
And he was actually nice enough to hold the door open.
Yeah, he held the door open for us while the guy stood behind the counter and just staring at us.
Yeah. I mean, it was a funny situation, and you had your opinion was that maybe I rubbed the guy the wrong way, right?
Yeah, I was like, that guy did not like you for some reason.
I don't know why. I'm such a friendly guy, Of course, I don't really care if, I don't base my self-esteem on other people.
Yeah.
But I think one thing in life you got to be really careful of is how you label yourself. Do you label yourself old, not strong? I mean, that's what these guys didn't even lift up the table to see how much it weighed. They automatically assumed that it was too heavy. And
it's all about that mindset, man. You can't have the mindset that you're old. Mindset podcast coming up soon.
Yeah, well, this was kind of our preempt for one of our upcoming episodes, because we're going to talk a lot about this. Probably, maybe next week. I don't know. You think that's going to be our next week subject? A little teaser?
Maybe. We'll see.
So that was our funny situation with getting this. I keep on wanting to say desk because it's going to be your desk, but it is sort of a table. And it's
mean table?
Yeah. I just thought it was really funny. You mean table?
But it wasn't just oh, you mean the table. Because he didn't know what we were talking about. Yeah. He was literally he called it the wrong word.
Yeah, that was exactly how he said it. So we're going to move on from that to we're going to be talking a little bit about
animal crackers.
Yeah, animals today. One of the things I thought just came up in the news, and this happens every year, and it's Yellowstone Park. People go to Yellowstone Park, and they don't know that these animals there, called bison and elk, and I don't know, grizzly bears, they don't think of them as wild animals.
All them mooses.
So recently they just had a video, and maybe on the YouTube channel I'll post it up, where a family with a young girl got within 10 feet of this bison, and the kid got thrown in the air. The bison charged them and threw this kid up in the air. The kid was fine, But this happens all the time. I mean, you can go look up on YouTube and people trying to take selfies of bison, and then the bison just come after them.
Those things are fast too.
Yeah.
I think, what was it? I think they run like 35 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah,
like
I think that's what
they run a lot faster than the human can. But they're 2 tons and like 8 foot tall. Like the big males are like 8 foot tall, weigh like 2 ton.
Yeah. And people think that these are just cute little animals out there that they should go. Oh, by the way, the parents of that girl that got thrown get the Bad Parents of the Year award, because not only were they like took their kid too close to this bison, but when the bison charged them, they ran away and left their kid like right there. So I think that they get the Bad Parents of the Year award.
That kid got the well-known amusement park ride of Yellowstone.
Yeah, I mean, this kid
bison
got
throw
flung into the air. It was. I remember once I was.
The parents didn't even turn around.
Yeah, they were
They're just
running.
like, see ya.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't her parents, I'm assuming it was, because why would a kid just be out there by themselves? The kid was like 6, 7 years old. It's not like the kid was like 14.
Yeah,
and
it was not actually. It was a 9-year-old.
Oh, was
it?
The
kid was 9 years old.
So the kid goes flying, and the parents don't even turn around to look back. If it wasn't the parents, you're still terrible human beings for not picking up a little kid.
I mean, once we went out to Colorado for a wedding, and I had our kids with us at the time, and they were fairly young, and we were at the hotel, and at the hotel, right around the pool, a whole herd of elk came in and started eating the grass around this pool. So everybody that was tourists there ran out to these elk. And I mean, if you ever saw an elk's, antlers, they are like huge. These animals are huge animals. These aren't like white-tailed deer. They are huge animals. And my kids were like, wanted to run out. And I was like, no, they're wild animals. You can look at them from here, but we're not going over there. And these people were taking pictures of these elk within, I swear, they were close enough almost where they could put their hand out and touch these elk. And, if one of those elk got a bad feeling and did something, they would have took out like 5 different families of people in a half a second. And these kids were like, some of the kids that these parents brought out, one kid was so small, he was actually holding the kid in his arms, because the kid was pretty much almost a baby. I mean, to risk your whole family over, just going out there is just insane.
Yeah, people don't always have the smartest ideas, huh?
So I was watching this. I just showed you right before the episode. There's this guy out there, Hank Peterson, and he put out a really good video, and it was a kind of a comedy video on, how to survive Yellowstone Park, and he gives some advices. And
kids don't look it up. Parents, you can.
And he put some really like crazy numbers in there. It's so funny. He's like, 200 million people visit Yellowstone and 10,000 people die there every year.
A couple thousand are kidnapped by wolves.
Yeah, by wolves. And he just it's funny. It's a really funny thing. But the funniest thing was in the comments how some people actually went and started correcting his numbers on how many people actually die. I think it's really funny when people it's obviously a joke, and people just don't get the jokes anymore. They actually like take everything so
well,
serious.
You have to be funny and factual.
I guess, but is it funny to be factual,
Not really.
I mean, that's the whole...
I mean, you can be, but it's also funny to just throw out crazy numbers.
Yeah. But it's a great video. If you want to see something funny, look up Hank Peterson and his Yellowstone video. Really funny guy. So from there, we're going to go on to our next
something else that's funny and has to do with animals and people being stupid. I'm sure you've heard of the Emu Wars before.
Yep.
So I was watching a YouTube video about the Emu Wars, and I was like, you know what? Let's do something on the Emu Wars. And then it just turned into talking about invasive species.
Yeah.
So Emu Wars. Basically, in Australia, this was, I think, in the 40s.
And an emu is a big bird, right? Like an ostrich, but smaller?
Yeah, it's like a small ostrich. But they group together when there's good food. Normally, they're not too close, together. But when there's food involved, they'll group up. And they were destroying the crops and fences and stuff like that for the farmers. Because what happened was after World War II, the Australian government started giving their soldiers like plots of land to farm. And
somebody didn't bring these. They were already there, right?
Yeah, they're native.
Okay, they're native. But all of a sudden they have a better food
Well, what
source.
happened is, so during the winter, they'll go to the coasts. And then in the summer, they'll go inland. So the farms were between inland and the coasts.
Oh, okay.
And so they found, hey, there's a lot of food here. We might as well just stay here because it's warm enough and cool enough all year round.
Can you imagine looking out on your farm field and seeing like a bunch of like 100 of these emu like eating all your crops? I mean,
so
it's gotta be an odd sight.
They're eating it. They're eating the food. They were destroying, just the ground they were farming on. They were destroying fences, so other animals were getting in, and eating crops. And so they were like, the government was supposed to give them subsidies because it wasn't very good farmland, apparently.
Yeah.
So they needed money to like help get started, for fertilizer and things. And the government never gave them any. So all right, you got to help us out with this emu problem at least. So
they're asking the government to help them get rid of emus.
Yeah, off their farmland. And so they give them 2 machine guns, a couple guys to run the machine guns, and then a bunch of volunteers helped out. But
sounds like a good plan.
The rule was that only the soldiers could actually operate the machine guns. So it was basically a giant mess because they were issued 10,000 rounds, right? And then the first encounter that they have with the emu, they're like, hey, there's the emu, and just started blasting away and didn't hit one of them because
they
were out of range. Like, they didn't wait till they got close enough. Now, the other thing about emu is, their feathers are really dense, and it's not easy to get through them, so you almost have to hit them in the head.
Well, it's probably also where their feathers make them look like they're a lot bigger, so you could actually wing them. Like, you could hit the feathers, but not actually their body.
Yeah, maybe.
I bet.
But basically, they just all ran away. And the official report said a few birds were shot, but there's no actual, kill count.
That's probably because they're so embarrassed to say it was only 2.
And then also in the same report, they said, and our forces did not have any casualties.
Can you imagine if you died from that would be
no wounded or dead men from this.
Oh man, can you imagine the funeral if you died from an emu attack? I don't know if I could suffer like that. That would be like the ultimate suffering for me. I don't know, dying that way.
Yeah, you got your grandkid like, Grandpa, how come you did you get that limp in the war? Yeah, the great Emu War.
Emu War. I got
fell out of a truck and busted my hip. All right, guys, we broke this session down into 2 episodes. So this is the end of the first episode. We will be releasing the second episode next week on Thursday. And if you guys want to contact us, don't forget you can contact us at thetheory@maximpactkarate.com. And we will see you next week for part 2.